Well, hello. Welcome to the Dream Labs. Dr. Contrast live here. I just thought we'd take a moment here and again welcome you on board. And we're going to see if we can wrap up this little landscape study we're doing, this hypothetical or this research piece at just a hypothetical problem-solving situation where we have a park area here. It's maybe a public park in the city of some area here. And what we said yesterday, it was going to be a process by which it's going to be bordered on bridges on both sides. We have the bridges here, the river, bridges, residential area, and again the riverfront. And so everything you see here, for example, are just a series of thumbnails. Hey, how you doing there, Chip? Good to have you on board. And everything, so I got to lay low. Yeah, please do. Don't get in trouble. But again, this is just a bit of a review from what we did yesterday. It's a hypothetical problem that came in. I'm really inspired by landscape design, and I thought we'd change gears and do a little bit of a landscape study here, looking for some theoretical applications for a public park. These are some. I'm just doing a review here, Chip. So we've got some things looking low key. Again, bordered on both north and south by bridges, and then on the east and west. On the west side, there's a river, and on the east side, there's a residential area. So I went through a whole series of little thumbnail studies here, looking for, and the premise was for me to take a space like this. It's roughly about a block long, 1,200 feet in length, by about 500 feet in maximum width before we get to the river itself. And the real problem from the client, if we had a client in this case, was to find a solution to a problem that instead of being linear, very sculptural, very flowing, almost like doing a piece of sculpture in a sense, that's very organic in a sense, and breaking up the shapes. But the real challenge is to keep things nice and simple. You get to the place where you kind of overlap a lot of the wraps and so forth and radii, and it just gets very, very busy. So the premise here was, again, to design a park that had a very comfortable approach to being very fluid, not overly down or very busy, and these are just really rapid little thumbnail sketches based on that premise. So here's the first plate we did yesterday, and then we went from those studies into a little bit of a plan view again, up on top with a little bit of a change of pace in the area here, some softscape and hardscape areas along the boulevard and the park area itself. Then we converted that into a little bit of perspective study to see what it might look like. Looking at it, for example, looking due west into the river area here, and again, the bridges on both sides. Notice it's very exaggerated perspective, because one of the nice things about this process in landscape, you can take a form like this, which is extremely long, in some cases very narrow, but it's somewhat very triangular, and begin to open it up a little bit and get more of a stretch and get more dramatic with some of the forms and shapes there without violating the simplicity of keeping the forms elegant and very simple. So that was the second study we did. Then I just kind of changed gears and went to toned paper to look at something we did here, and it was basically something like this. Just doing a nice job of coming back in with a very empathic approach to a plan view study, again keeping that very simple parabolic curve, breaking the shapes up and getting more contour in the actual park itself, and coming back through with some of the hardscape areas and into the area of the residential situation, and a lot of plantings and so forth along the way, just to keep it nice and simple. Then the perspective of what that might look like, and again, notice how it was stretched. It really opened up. In this case, we really opened it up. Or the other one, we compressed it the other way. Again, looking at the parabolic curve that comes through, some walkways and hardscape and so forth, and elements that come together with lawn space, some plantings, and some of the things we're going to throw into this thing as time moves on here. And again, out of that, another little plan view study here about a variation in the theme. What if it went from this into something like this, where it's much simpler, and it goes into hardscape, and goes from there. So I'm going to spend some time today just going through a couple of really rapid thumbnail sketches, some perspective sketches, and maybe a couple more possibilities here. So bear with me here, and we'll just kind of get this guy started. I'm going to go into a perspective study here. We're going to overlay this guy. So overlay it rather, for example, let's get the streets in place here. These are the border areas. We're coming in here. Let's get that street that goes through here, and that connects it. And this guy will connect it here, run it through. Then we'll pick up the other street on the south side of the space. So that does that. Now let's kind of break into the riverfront here. Let's kind of pull this together. This is now the riverbank itself. We'll come along here with the nice little ragged edge and bring it right back into form here. Just open it up and then blend that right back into this piece here. Now there's an access road that comes in through here, so I'm going to turn this guy just a bit. There's an access road that comes in here off of that residential area. So we'll have this going in place. Then we'll have this curb radius, curb radius, curb radius, and then into this. And again, the entryway into the actual park itself. I'm going to come back through here and just direct a center line right through this guy. That's the reason I brought that center line into play here is if you're coming down this boulevard, looking into this theme area here, there's a very focal point here, a very large sculptural piece with a lot of hardscape that might have a sculpture on it or a piece of commemorative bit to kind of give a good visual sight system coming down that road and then entering from right and left and so forth into the community itself. So let's kind of put that tribute area in here. This big focal point. They want to be round, so we just do that with it. Let's kind of bring this in and connect it. Let's bring this in and connect it. Open that up just a touch more. Radius into it, and then a radius into it. Now let's get this guy to kind of read here. Let's get that sidewalk system in the residential area through there. And again, run it through here. And we'll terminate where we need to. Let's turn it into that subdivision area here too, that secondary street. Let's curl it in there. A little more interest. Let's rotate that up. Again, real quick pencil sketches. Just looking for a refined theme to get a lot more organic with some of the stuff we're working with. Oh, pardon me here. Let's rotate that to radius into the street, curve itself. Radius into the street, curve itself. So there we are. There's the primary road plane that goes through. It splits the space itself into the river and into the site itself. So let's start looking at this thing by getting a really good sculptural feel for what's happening here. Let's take this shape here. Let's get a parabolic curve coming off of this. Run it right through and then terminate at the street itself. Now the essence here, when I go through this process, is to look at how to break up a space, being very sculptural, very simple, and not overly done, and yet not complicated, with walkways, green space, walking paths, and so forth, plantings, places of rest, and so forth. So let's bring this into play. Let's come the other way. A nice big sweep comes out of this corner into the radius itself. So there's an intersection there. Now let's take this guy and just butterfly it right out. Let's bring this out. Come off of that form there. Let's do the same thing in through here. Let's come back in through. I can carry that shape right through, and instead of terminating it, just run it right on through into that street. So notice we're getting a butterfly effect to kind of break the space up a bit, which is interesting. Now let's take this thing, kind of break it out here, and end it right in the streetscape area there. Let's take this piece and get a little more compatibility. Let's radius this off and just join that right in. Pardon me as I turn this upside down. Let's get this radius to come right back in and work right in that shape itself. Now, we've got a very interesting, but yet not too complex a shape or breakup here to work with. So let's kind of put this tribute in place here. Let's say we come down the line here with a little bit of an offset. That comes in here. That comes in here. That's all hardscape. Hardscape. Let's put a hardscape in here, like a brick pattern of some sort. Let's take a line here and really kind of open this up. Let's just take this thing and break it just a bit more. There we are. That comes around here. And the idea is to get this whole form to wrap around this focal point, come right back and bring you back to that drive-through. And let's kind of take that across the street. Let's end that. That's kind of neat right there. Now let's put a little bit of a break here, like a texture change. This might be a brick pattern coming in to the roadway itself. Let's bring it compatibility over here on this side, do the same thing. So there's a little brick pattern there and a brick pattern there. Interesting. So that's doing that. Now let's come back in and really begin to solidify this. Let's get this shape to read here. Now back to this focal point. This might be a raised area that has 1, 2, 3 tiers to it. So we'll come back and put a little section in this thing. Show the viewer that it kind of steps down, comes back around again into that, and then right down to the riverfront area here. So there it is. I mean, that's a pretty interesting set of circumstances here to kind of flow this. All right, we're good soil. We're up the Jet Fire Highway. It's more of this chip is more of an exercise than just taking a look at a very, very organic form here in a park setting, public park setting, and getting a very organic look through, for example, with a boulevard area with a focal point coming in, so they see it coming down that street, and also the riverfront, and getting a focal point. It's all hardscape. This might all, for example, let's do this. This might come in, and there it is there. There it is there. Let's kind of take that same shape and carry it around. Let's take that shape right through and put a bit of a streetscape in there. That's neat. Let's take this and run it right across the street. A little bit more uniqueness. That comes right across. Does that. Again, let's set this up. Maybe this is a pathway here. So it comes in and marries there into this. And then this might come off at the same time. This comes off that hardscape here and forms another pathway through here. Again, this could be a pathway coming off that main boulevard, right back into actual street itself. It terminates there, terminates here. And again, this last guy, same thing. We can bring this around here and create a walking path. It comes right in to this. So let's kind of do that a little bit here. Now, if we need an escape clause here, we kind of do this. Let's kind of bring this into shape. That's kind of crisping that up. Let's crisping that up. Bring that around. More of this. Now, let's get this guy squared away. There's an axis. Lay a little bit of a hardscape character here. Maybe some brick pattern or pavers of some sort. Kind of gives it a focal point of interest, a gathering place to look at this tribute that's up on this pedestal. That could be a piece of sculpture, could be a graphic of some sort, coming up the city. Come around this radius into that softscape. Now let's come the other way. Let's kind of bring this in just a bit. Oops, sorry about that. Coffee shop to attack people. That sounds pretty good, Chip. We can include that in here. Just a very quick simulation of a texture change here, of a paver pattern of some sort along that riverfront and that tribute area. And let's take this and go the other way with this guy. Let's kind of go to a larger pattern here. One thing I want you to notice here, notice how I'm following the perspective drive lines as it goes back in space here. Those all go back to a vanishing point that's somewhere off the paper here. Attack or attract, words are hard. Let's do the same thing on this side. Again, following the perspective, coming off that beam. We're going to be about right there and there. Just a very simple couple of thumbnail studies here, just looking at that graphic breakup to get this place, this hypothetical park system to really become more organic, a little bit more friendly, less rigid, much more commemorative, and with some really interesting design features in it as well. Don't want to lose sight of that. But the main task here from self-assigned problem for me is to take that shape and break it up into a very, very crisp and yet a fluid and friendly walking systems and variety of different surfaces like landscape, darker greens, and maybe some contour and shape and the like to get this to function here. So let's kind of get this into place and that into place. Yeah, let's get this guy to go the other way. Again, honor the perspective. This could be a wooden boardwalk or larger pavers under the riverfront area here. And that just about sets it up there. Let me just kind of get this cleaned up just a touch here. And walkway entryway, we could break that up again with a little bit of a paver change. Maybe we bring this through. That could be kind of nice. So that might have a little bit of a break in it as well. Just create a little bit of some more visual interest. So there it is there. Again, into sidewalk. On the residential side, sidewalk, residential side, into the street itself, walkway, into walkway. Again, that can come right on through. And again, that walkway can come in through here and do the following. There it is there. This could also become a walkway where we get kind of terminated here. Come through that and then terminate right. That makes sense. Just kind of roll that into that. So all of a sudden, we've got this two-way run in a vertical situation that kind of comes back in and really attract the form itself. So let's put a little bit of plantings into this thing now. If we would put some softness into this thing, I think it might be really good to look at the possibility of doing the following here. Let me just kind of run this through just for a second. Yeah, let's Let's look at this. Let's come back in and just do a nice job of just coming back in and say, all right, let's soften this off a bit. Let's put some foliage in through here. Let me kind of bring this up. Some small shrubbery into this little radius here, just spotting it in. Let's carry that right through. And then terminate that. So we want a couple of nice large trees coming down this boulevard side here. So we want to block this off with 1, 2, 3 large trees. That looks like that. Maybe over here, there's a little bit of a space here. Let's kind of give this guy some distinction. So we have one there, and one in the center. Let's just kind of put that in place inside that walking space and so forth. So that's 1, 2, 3. In between, maybe a small row of hedges off the roadway itself. And then maybe inside here, maybe a couple more clusters of trees here. It's going to bring this into play. And again, maybe back in through here, some more shrubbery just to soften off this scape here. Terminate it there. And just to tell us where we are relative to this form, that that can softens off kind of nicely. Just add a couple in through here too. So it's not so long, just to kind of give ourselves a little bit of a jump here. So just kind of bake up basically the space itself and see what happens here. And I just take a pencil here. Let's kind of show the viewer where the cityscape, where this the riverfront's going to be here. So it's there. Comes along, darts across, does the following. More shadow into this guy. Notice I'm staying away from that edge. This could be all lawn space in here, but that walkway comes back off the riverfront, etc. Let's put more impact in this guy. There we go. The more darks and lights, that's better. And then just soften it off just a bit. So there's one approach. Just to want to keep a nice simple pencil study here and give us a reference about where we are in regard to this this shape we're dealing with here, this park system. So let's extend that streetway out. That goes out there, and that's a pretty interesting little break up here. We're keeping it nice and simple, and some hardscape areas here. A lot of focal point area coming right down the boulevard to see it and so forth. Hey, Doug Ritt, love this. Hey, how you doing, Doug? How's everything? Good to have you on board, Chief. This is a very simple operation here. It's a kind of a hypothetical process by which we're looking at a series of landscape. I've always been intrigued by landscape design, but I just wanted to take a look at a hypothetical situation here. Did some sketches yesterday on how to break this thing up. For example, as mentioned in the introduction here, Doug, it's a space about 1,100 feet long, about 500 feet wide. It's bordered on two sides with bridges, riverfront, and residential area. And the task was to get a nice simple format going with how to look at a space like this and get very organic with it, and not so tied in with a focal point with a lot of hardscape areas and some softscape and some soft trees and the like. And to see what we come at, what we're doing with it. So, but to bring up the speed here, Doug, we started with this. This is what we were yesterday. We started with a series of little thumbnail sketches like this, and plan view studies based on that same principle, getting this landscape design to work. So really quick little fast 10, maybe 5-10 minute sketches at best. Just laying out the objective to lay down a simple, it's almost a triangulated shape here. Getting very organic, fluid, very flowing surfaces with walkways and elements in it, such as. So we started with that one. And then I went to this one, pulled a little bit more of a plan view of this guy, and looked at the possibility of putting that into place. And another theme on getting a little bit more, taking the accent off to maybe 65 degrees off the center, putting it into perspective and putting a little bit of variation in the theme and just changing some of the character. A little thumbnail down here about this, with this very highly powerful parabolic curve. So this is where I started. I used that little thumbnail to kind of generate this guy, looking at it from the other side. I came in from the other side of the river and began to look at, I'm looking due east here into this park. So that's that guy. Let's kind of do a little bit of this. Let's frame the sketch a little bit so we can kind of give it some So a little bit of essence, that's that, coming into that. We'll just try to frame it a bit here. I'm going to give myself just a box section here to kind of work with here. There it is. Sign this guy. And let's go, there's one. Let's do this. Let's come back in and crank out another one here. Another little system, same process, but looking at another variation in the theme. Maybe this one, I still want to maintain that very soft, fluid, dynamic approach to the surface itself. So let's, the same view from the river looking in. Let's kind of break this up a little bit here. Let's kind of get this sketch in place. Here's one of the primary streets. That's the boulevard that goes through. Then the roadway that kind of splits it up a little bit. That goes through. That comes through. It's a residential. That'll do that. Then it's companion piece on the other side here. Another road that goes through this form. Now let's get the riverfront in place here. This is where the river's edge is. Going to come right just with a nice little ragged situation here. Kind of get that form to kind of come through and run through, and then just a last minute break into the bridge. That's the basic premise of what this just shape looks like. Once again, 1,200 feet and 500 feet in depth, and it still has that same approach. Let's put that center line in place here. This is where that roadway comes in, that boulevard. This is going to be the one theme I'm going to pull off, for example, as the main thrust or the benchmark coming down this road. You'll see the tribute area and look like this. Let's kind of reduce the tribute size or the focal point of this park by doing this. Still elevate it. Maybe 3 tiers. So that comes off that normal surface. So we have that. That's kind of builds it up a bit. Then we come back in here and let's just take this right on through. I want to say this and this. Let's bring that right through. Sidewalk. The sidewalk. Let's get this blocked in here into sidewalk. And then into sidewalk. We'll let that trail for the time being and begin to marry it in once we find out what we're going to do with it. Now let's do some really neat stuff here. Let's take this great big huge parabolic curve. Let's come through the center line of this. Oh, before we do that, I'm going to do this. I'm going to shift the axis here. Come right off of that at right angles. Just roll that in, pull that in. All of a sudden, we just shifted the whole emphasis coming down the street and then looking right at it. Then we'll shift about 15 degrees over to get that prison to work. Now, in the meantime, let's do this. A little bit of hardscape break. Trying to think ahead here, hardscape break. But the beauty of this is maybe it's a big radius that comes through here like this. And there it is. That's a big radius. Kind of boring, so let's put a little bit of flair to it. Let's do this. A little bit of a dovetail. That comes off that fillet right around the corner, and there it is. Same thing over here. Change the parac a little bit. What's cool about that, we can make a decision right here. Softscape. And again, softscape. Yeah, just enough to break the rhythm of that shape. That justifies that little offset there. So let's do this. Let's come back in again. Maybe it's a bit massive here, so let's kind of do this. Let's come back and reduce that. Same radius in, through, and then radius out. This all could be hardscaping through here. As you come through, walk through, all hardscape. Let's go the other way, that's better. Go around like so. And then just kind of break this in. That's that, to that, to that, and that. Let's get these fillets to work. Coming out the air. Again, there it is there. Let's take this and do a nice little cat's eye coming right through the shape here. Nice little entry piece. Now let's take that right on through. Marry up the sidewalks. There you go. Going right through the streetscape itself. Let's extend that out and break that space up a little bit more uniquely. So that goes, maybe this is all paver, and then back into softscape here. Let's do this, and that marries right into the form itself. So we've got that nice little lead in. Nice little lead in there. So we're starting to break the shape up kind of nicely. I want to keep it simple. I want to keep it very fluid. How do we do that? So let's come around here again with another ribbon. Very concentric, almost rainbow-like. Coming around there. That might be kind of neat. Rainbow Park. Well, not really. So we've got this. Let's kind of break this off. Come right down here and just roll this thing right into that form there. Now this maybe becomes a walkway. And that goes on through. So it's a walking path. in the tent there. Now, off of that, we need to come back home with this guy a bit. So let's turn this upside down. Begin to look at this. Let's just take that radius and just blow it right off of that. Blow it right off of that. Bring your right side up. Oh, that's interesting. So you've got the choice of going through the process or breaking off and going in this direction. And again, let's take that right across the street into the pavers. Let's run that through. Let's get this softscape here. And again, in the streetscape itself, there we are there. Maybe that's a pattern, pavers. Same with this, pavers. Again, pattern over here. This could be all paver. Again, paver here. Let's marry that into the sidewalk, the residential side. Let's take this guy through. Again, pavers. And again, out of that radius here where it is, that does that. And then it comes into a set of pavers there, into the river itself. So there we are there. Now let's break this guy up. Let's say that this is going to have a much larger effect here. Let's put some large patterns in here. Larger pavers. Just breaking that up in perspective. Notice I'm following the drive line. The perspective now coming through in 2-point. Running that on through. Just nice and easy, skipping it right through here and getting a pattern down. Now let's go back in through here. So it's all solved. Let's get a patch. Let's break this up. Maybe that's a walkway that marries on that. That comes right on through. That's neat. That's what brings you right around. But let's terminate it right again, up against that bearing against the wall there. And now let's put a sidewalk on this thing or a frame of some sort. And marry that right in here through here. That's cool. All of a sudden, look how nice and simple that is, but hopefully it has a gesture about it that keeps and maintains the integrity of the thought here. Hey, Chip and Doug, what do you think so far? Is this making sense for you guys? If you're still there, very cool. Hopefully this will begin to function for you here. I'll just kind of wait for your response before I carry on here. Real loose sketches, just breaking up the shape. Just breaking up the shape. Interesting stuff, promise here. Now let's go back in here. Let's do the same thing. Let's soften this off. So maybe low plantings along the way here into a large tree. Again over here, large tree. You'll see that coming right down that boulevard. And again, same thing, plantings coming out of it. A little shrubbery. And then from a cost perspective, I think that whole area being hardscape is going to be fine. I think that'd be plenty. This can become, now let's do this. Let's get that hardscape in place here. It's going to come back, and again, I'm going to follow my drive lines. One, this will be like paver system of some sort coming off of that primary boulevard to the river. Pardon me as I just kind of lay these in. Notice once again, I'm following the perspective of that main artery to make sure that it really comes on through here. Makes sense. Again, a nice balance of hardscape, a lot of softscape, a lot of contour too. I can see this shape or this form of this park becoming a whole series of undulating shapes. It's not going to be flat. You can have a lot of roundness to it. You can have some crown to it. You can kind of taper back to the river. Just a lot of neat stuff. So let's kind of finish this off here. Just slowly but surely. Thanks for your patience. This is kind of a delicate little approach here. I don't want to really rush through this. It's kind of making sure the texture change reads well without being too fluid here. So that's the one pattern. Now let's oppose it. Let's kind of clean that up. A little bit of radius here, a little bit offset, and back to that side, right there. Let's get that fillet to run through. Now let's get this guy to go the other way. Hope this will work okay. Let's go to the other side. So there's a hardscape against that very straightforward shot at it here. Let's go ahead and put some foliage in here. Large tree. 1, 2, and another. And again, in between. Maybe this is all hardscape. This is like a poured cement, and it's just a little bit of a banding change in here, kind of break up the space a little bit. Maybe this has got some large trees over here. And again, small shrubbery to break that up just a touch. Let's take it, end it right there. Let's run that through. Run that through. Again. Not to destroy the vista here. Again, just to shroud or to crown that area, to keep it very captive in terms of looking through that focal point here and here. And again, tribute or some sort of an event up on top. Walkway into walkway. And again, this could be all hardscape walkway. This could be in between here. It could be all softscape or lawn space. Back into this area here, which is all very low profile shrubbery. Still works. Same thing over here. Walkway again. And just for convenience sake, what if we did this? Brought a bit of a return off that area. Just a little change of a scallop. Let's bring that into place here. Do that. And again, maybe that has just a couple of small accent trees to give it some distinction back in this corner. So there, and that's a pretty interesting setup in terms of how to break that shape up. I'm not going to put it in a color, pardon me. Is that any better? How are you doing there, guys? Is this making sense now? I mean, again, you've got a combination of a lot of different things. Hardscape, walking space, concrete pad, streetscape going through it, some pavers in interesting areas to kind of accent the shape itself. But the premise is to keep this thing really, really simple. Let's go back in again and do the following here. Let's get this guy up. A bit of a border frame in through here. Just to frame it just a bit. And again, there it is. Just another second shot out of here. Chip said, yeah, that's a park I'd like to visit as long as there's some coffee. Yeah, we put the coffee shop right back in this corner right here for you, Chip. There's a lot of real estate in there to work with, or else we could put it back in through here, or else right up front. So we'll make sure we get that accommodation for you. How's that? Let's add one more thing here, just to be sure. Just kind of give this thing some distinction. Smaller tree, smaller tree. A little bit more variation in flavor here. Smaller tree, smaller tree. I just want to indicate where some of these surfaces. I'm not going to really do a lot of illustration on this thing. It'll come to pass, maybe a future reference, we might do a little color study with it. But I think that's the idea, just to get some of these things to just really scream out very simple and very walkable, very pleasant. Again, the riverfront, and let's do that while we're at it. Let's kind of put this into context. Let's kind of give ourselves a reference as to where that river is. Once again, some darks and lights along that bank, and into that area right there, and along that whole coastal area. That's where that bridge is. Just going to steam that in just a bit more. It's going to change the pace of this guy. A little more darks and lights. Changing it just a touch. Putting a couple of eddies in here. Just sculpting in where that river is and give ourselves a bit of a presence with this guy. There it is, gang. There's phase number 2, second sketch. Let me hold the jury out here. You guys are going to be the doctors here. What do you think, guys? Is this making sense? There's number one. Let's put them side by side. We can get them on the same screen here. That's two different variations on theme here. That's not bad. One very simple, going very, very river oriented. Again, same thing here, but this is all pushing the viewer back into the residential area. And this one kind of brings you all forward from the river area. So I think we're onto something here as far as form goes. And again, the lesson today, the reason for the stream is very simple. It's time to change gears every now and then. It's product, and it's transportation, and it's spacecraft, and so forth. And I've always really wanted to do some landscape work, and I think a good park system like this, a hypothetical approach, is a good way to get things warmed up to. Again, it's still design, but it's a very different approach in terms of being careful to work with symmetry, working with asymmetry, material changes, hardscape and softscape, and what the contours are going to do. It's a tremendous discipline, and I really love working with landscape, where I do a lot of landscape work, architectural work with companies here in town and across the country. I just thought it'd be a really nice, nice looking format to go through a sketch rendering exercise, and we'll follow through with it in the time to come too, with maybe some color work and etc. So let's see, Chip, yeah, it's the park visit. Chip's a sucker for asymmetry, so I'd take the bottom one. Yeah, me too. I think the asymmetry is kind of neat. There's a little more flow to it. This is a little bit more typical. It still centers around a concentric radius here. I think you're right, Chip. This has a lot of nice variation to it. It's not predictable. It changes tempo, going from positive to negative, and really simplifies the walkway system. So those are the two we worked with here, guys. So there's 1 and 2. And then just for fun, let's do this. This is what happens if you go to tone paper. Let's see what we can do with this guy just for a second here. So I come back with this just for a moment. Let's get this organized here. What if we did this? What if we just took a moment and used some tone paper to do the following here? I'm going to come back in through here. Let's see. Riverfront, streetscape. A little different for landscape work because we're not used to seeing this stuff done on tone paper, and it's a shame because tone paper is one terrific process, and no matter what people say about it, it's not dated, extremely refreshing, forces you to think in a different dimension altogether because you've got the middle ground established. You're going highlight and shadow, totally different approach. So let's come back in through here and let's get these guys down. There's the road coming through. It breaks in this is all subdivision. There's the breaker there. That comes out of the form. There's a secondary street there. Now there's that primary artery that comes through here that does this and does this. Let's kind of give it, this is a very important street here. That little street right there begins to give us the direction of what we're going to do with this thing. But I'm going to just kind of fool the eyeball a bit here. Let's kind of bring that through. Let's bring that through. I'm going to really change pace here. Big parabolic curve. That's A. Now another one. I'm going to change the focus here. Here's my axis. Just real loose little thumbnail sketches here. Now one more time, out of this. Interesting. Now let's take that thing and reverse it. Very interesting. Let's take this guy, put a little cat's eye right in through here. That's a neat little shape. It'll change of pace in there. Then we come back and let me sharpen it. Boy, this tone paper grinds an awful lot of this paper through. Let's do a little of this. Let's take that same shape and really accelerate it and bring it back to the river. There's a walkway there into hardscape. This could be a walkway as well. Then we'll come right back in and do a nice big, just a change of pace off of this guy. And again, here's my entryway. But the real surprise is going to be right here. I'm going to interrupt this big parabolic curve with this. We won't see it come off that area there, but it's got a little bit more impact to it. And it's going to have that effect. Here's my center line now. And what happens, for example, if I come through here, here's my axis. There it is. Let's going to put some shrubbery here, there, there. 1, 2, 3, and 4 of them. And that breaks there, and that comes right back and hooks onto the street. That could be kind of cool. That could be, that's a neat little shape right there. Back into this. Back into this. Again, into that riverfront. Let's do a little bit of this. river. Kind of give now put a little bit of tone to that. Just kind of might not. There you go. That's not bad. Comes off of that. That's riverfront. And let me sharpen the stick here for a second, here, guys. Like I said, this thing really begins to open ourselves up here. Let's do this. That parabolic curve is going to come through here and break that focal point up by doing the following. We get into that, and that goes into that. Again, we could put a couple of nice big trees in through here. Net spots, center line to center line, in through here. Nice big surround. Draw attention to that focal point. Once you get into the park itself, tree to tree, and so forth. There'll be a lot of roundness. And just playing up this whole round theme here, and coming right back in and running it right through here. Let's put a couple up over here. Here this comes off and just curls back on itself and does that and gives me a little bit of a streetscape place. There it is. To there to there. There to there. Again, change of pace. Change of pace. Into sidewalk. Just combining it all together, just kind of changing the variation of the theme there. What do you think, eh? Coming along all right? What do you think, Chip? You buying this one? How about you, Doug? Some little small plantings along this parabolic curve and through here. And then, just for what it's worth, this could be, let's put a little bit of tone in this thing. Hardscape. And that's going to be about, that should do it about right there. That could be kind of, let's just kind of rub that out just a bit more so it kind of smears in. That's a bit of a theme point right there. That's where I want that intention to be. However, what happens if we start to look at this from the point of view of, what if we do this? Change gears here. And there's a little thumbnail sketch and a little plan view study. What do you think, gang? Hey, how you doing there? This, let's see, Doug, I'm sorry, but I love it. Yeah, me too, Doug. I think this is just an incredibly powerful medium. It always has been and always will be. It's just an amazing set of circumstances to work with here. Let's put a little bit of reference here, and we'll put this in place. Riverfront. Now that kind of plays in. Just rough this up. A couple of dark spots in here, kind of put a little bit of variation and theme. Let's put a little bit of this into place. Change the tone just a bit. That's fun. That is some fun stuff, Doug. There it is. What do you think, Chip? You buying that? Your coffee shop's gonna be right in the middle of this beauty. How's that? Let's put this. Let's do that little accent piece. Let's do this. Oh, let's do this first. Tribute area, and a little bit of paver system, just enough to kind of warm it up, just to tell us where we are in relation to, and smudge it out. There you are, guys. What do you think? There she is. A lot of fun. Let's put a little bit of background in this beauty here. A little bit of a reference. And I think that just about does it. Let's kind of tune this in a bit more. Roadway, and the riverfront, walkway, the walkway, again walkway, and again front. Kind of fun, just for a second. Let's do this. Just a little bit of magic in this guy here. Let's try a little bit of this. A bit of pastel added over this guy. Yeah, get a little more character to it. There you are. Get some idea where we are there. Some foliage stuff, a little bit of hardscape, and again, I'm really not concerned yet about doing some of the contour work behind this thing. It's kind of fun as well while we're at it. Let's kind of get this thing in a frame and wrap up the sketch. Let's put a bit of backdrop in this thing so it kind of bounces a little bit for us here. Let's do this. Turn this upside down. Pardon me for a moment. Just a touch of a frame of reference here. Take my time, do a nice job of patterning this thing in so it doesn't look like an afterthought. Just to frame the sketch. Gives us a reference. And there you are, guys. What do you think? A little bit of a flag in the corner there. Pastel's a nice touch. Yeah, just a little bit of a touch to it. You got it right there. Let's kind of pick the pencil back up again here. Scrub through that. And pull indication where our light source is coming from, which is right there, there, and there. So there it is, guys. Oh, one last thing. Get ready, Chip. There it is, just for you. All right, gang, what do you think? That's a pretty interesting little vignette series here for the next few moments, the last few moments of just putting together a little program based on what this scape could look like, what this whole park system might look like. I mean, it's a very interesting premise where you've got bridges on both sides, you've got residential up on this end, you've got riverfront here, but the mission was to take this shape, which is about 1,200 feet in length and about 500 feet in width at the widest point, about maybe 500 down to about maybe 3 along that river's edge, and just begin to put some really interesting shapes in here and really generate the whole concept in terms of putting this whole thing together. What's kind of nice to do here is see this. Let's see if this will work here. Just for a second. Let's try something here. Just for what it's worth. I'm going to try something here. Gentlemen, hang on a second. Not quite done yet. I think this might help to clarify what we're after here. Let's frame this one off. That's that. That separates the one view from another. Maybe that's not quite there yet. Yeah, that's okay. Let's just do that. How's that? Looking pretty good there, guys? So there we are, and I think the idea here again was to just do some very quick empathic sketches on it. And as I said before, I just am really enamored with landscape design work. It's a lot of fun to deal with, extremely fluid. In this case, the mandatory thing was to get a very geometric shape and go very organic with it. And we started, don't forget, we started with this sketch here. In thumbnail, just in pencil sketch here. That was the first premise, getting a very focal point area, some hardscape and a riverfront area to view with, some walking path areas here, some softscapes and land and plantings and the like, that major boulevard, then the boulevard to boulevard and river, and then this is residential. Second step up here, there's the second sketch we did, a little bit more traditional, but still trying to get very sculptural with it. It's much more concentric with a big round circle here, and then breaking out of it with a couple of walking paths and the same boulevard, border, subdivision, residential, riverfront. Then the last one we did was just a little tone paper sketch, which I think is, to me, always has been one of the most tremendous disciplines to work with. There's just something about it that's extremely unique, very unique to work with. Enjoyed it. So that does it for today, guys. I hope it, again, we're going to terminate this little study here today based on the landscape part 2, and maybe we'll come back sometime in the future and revisit it here, put a little bit of let's extend some of these lines out so it's not so static. We might revisit this thing once things come to pass a little bit more clearly here, and come back in and do a little more exploratory work on landscape design, but just a nice change of pace where it gets into a lot of texture change, a lot of materials and so forth. It is a lot of fun to do, Chip. It's not spontaneous. There's a lot of planning behind it all, but the idea is to take that shape and to be very careful about how you break up some of the surfaces. You can get to the place where you get so organic, it gets very busy. You know that, and so do you, Doug. You can get to the place where it gets really tuned into something that just doesn't fit. So I think the premise here was to pull back a little bit, and where we were yesterday, for example, some of these plan views we did yesterday were pretty ornate. There's a lot of returns and so forth, some pretty simple things going on, but again, just to kind of pull back a little bit, regroup, and let the materials do the work for us, and just really be conscious of some of the section work that it comes through with it. So with that thought in mind, if I've said something right here today, guys, please tell me. If I've done something wrong, please let me know. And please feel free to always drop me a note at my website, Chip and Doug at, in fact, my email address, pardon me, at jim@drcontrast.com, and I'll be more than happy to kind of comply with something. What would you like me to work on, for example? I'm always looking for themes and subject to deal with. If it's more of a teaching base on certain things, or other areas of interest, please feel free to let me know. I'll be more than happy to comply accordingly. And so much. And oh, by the way, too, Doug, please let Landon know I have not forgotten his request about the automotive piece he did. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but I'll respond to that. Hey, Chip, thanks very much for joining in today. Really appreciate you being on board, and you as well, Doug. And last but not least, please visit my website at drcontrast.com for any drawing information. If you have friends that might be interested in drawing or some lesson plans, I've got a 9 lesson plan on the internet at jim@drcontrast.com. Please take a look at it and let me know what you think, and hope you'll join us. And I always sign off with this because I think it's the most critical part of the whole process, and it's simply this. Always remember to never forget to dare to be great, because you are. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next Tuesday at 2:30, and we'll kind of switch gears again and go to a different subject matter. Thanks so much. All the very best, and have a great weekend. Thank you.